I was thinking, what is my Mahabharata really saying? It's thousands of years old, and it's an essential reading, a scripture, for millions of Hindu people, but it's really part of world literature. And so what is the Mahabharata? What is the essential message? Am I just telling a nice story? Or really, what is the essential message of the Mahabharata? You know, Plato, 700 years after the Iliad and Odyssey were written by Homer, Plato was looking at the Iliad and Odyssey, and he was saying that this is great adventure, great poetry, but where's the philosophy? There's really not much in the sense of what is the, how to live life. What is the purpose of life? What is the purpose of us being here on the earth? And I think Plato, if he had come across Mahabharata, he would have been very pleasantly surprised. Because not only is it great literature, great poetry, a great storyline, but it also does include a very profound philosophy of the ancient tradition of India. A lot of people think this is called Hinduism, but Hinduism is a misnomer. Hinduism has only been around for the last 600 or 700 years. And it's been the British in India, when they came to India, they really labeled the people and the tradition in India Hindus and Hinduism. Prior to that, and in the scriptures of ancient India, this is referred to as the Dharma. And so in thinking, what am I really 100%? And I came to the conclusion that I wanted people to understand what is Dharma, because it's a very complex word. On one hand, Dharma could mean your religion. It could mean your occupation. What is your essential purpose in life? Who are we? And what is our purpose? Just like, for instance, this microphone. The Dharma, the purpose of this microphone is to broadcast the voice. And so each of us, we all have a sense of purpose. Sometimes, unfortunately, sometimes we don't find a sense of purpose. But we all, whether we find it or not, we all have a sense of purpose. And that's what the Dharma, the deeper meaning of the Dharma is all about. And the other thing that I wanted to address, because in our generation, in this decade, one of the great challenges, the generational challenges that we have, is on leadership. What is real leadership? Where are the examples of real leaders? One of the great yogis at that time comes to Yudhisthira the king. He had just gained the kingdom. And this yogi comes to Yudhisthira to talk to him both about spiritual knowledge and material, practical knowledge. And this is what he says to Yudhisthira, one of the 5 Pandavas. My dear Yudhisthira, are you seeing to it that all of the citizens are happy? This is the first duty of a king, or of any leader for that matter. Happiness must take the shape of justice and economic prosperity. So this is really interesting, because happiness is not just some ethereal thing. This yogi is giving it a very definite context. There has to be justice for everyone, and there has to be an opportunity of prosperity for everyone. I call this, we need order and we need opportunity. But he continues, but take care that wealth is not used to bend justice to one's own liking. This is very close to the words that he uses in the Mahabharata. So he warns the king that, yes, use wealth, but make sure that you don't twist justice in the course of your using wealth. And he says, nor should one manipulate justice to secure wealth. So sometimes people rig things. And then he goes on, justice and wealth are not playthings to increase our happiness or to safeguard our prejudices. True happiness is reserved for those who are illumined from within, those who rejoice from within, those who see all things the same, be it a friend or a foe, be it a stone or gold or a clump of dirt. But you, my dear Yudhisthira, are king. To carry out your duty, you must make distinctions. Even though you maintain forts and soldiers and chariots and elephants and spies, and even though you have many men and resources at your command, and even though you are expert in collecting taxes and in the art of diplomacy, I hope that you don't let your mind be consumed by the power that you wield. I hope that you don't let anyone whose passions are uncontrolled or who would accept bribes and perform wicked deeds near that power. I hope you protect the women and children, the elderly, the invalid, the Brahmins and the cows. I hope you make sure that the farmers and merchants and craftsmen have order and opportunity to pursue a peaceful and prosperous life. My dear Yudhisthira, I hope you will always be devoted to the good of all. So this is the essence of the Dharma, to be devoted to the good of all. So the 4 different ages are like the 4 seasons of the year. You have the springtime, and the summertime, and the fall, and then the winter. And we all know what the winter's like. But the Kali Yuga, the age that we're in now, is compared to the winter. That the hearts of people are going to be very hard-hearted. There's not going to be much compassion. People are only going to look out for themselves. Number one, no one else. In previous ages, people were much more scholarly and compassionate. They lived longer. Even in the Bible, you have people living 800-900 years. And also in the ancient literatures of India, people are living not only hundreds, but even thousands of years. Because of the different ages, actually, there wasn't as much stress, and wasn't as much anxiety as there is in our age of Kali Yuga. This is called the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. And so we're in the age of the winter time. And then after the winter, of course, then the summer begins again. So 5,000 years ago, when the Kali Yuga began, Vedavyas understood that we would not have the mental capacity to retain the Mahabharata or any of the Vedic literatures simply by hearing. Up until that time, the knowledge in all of the different cultures, the stories and the knowledge was transmitted orally. But in the Kali Yuga, we as human beings, our capacities are diminished. We'll barely live to be 100 years old. Our mental capacities decreased. Our physical strength also will be decreased. And so Vyasadeva, to help the people in this age of Kali Yuga, for the very first time, he wrote down the Mahabharata and the other Vedas. Of course, some scholars, because they find there's segments of the Mahabharata that are maybe that crop up in written form at about 400 or 500 before Christ, they understand that it's 5,000 years old, the events and the story itself, and it was documented by Vedavyas, Vyasadeva himself, who is a personality in his own story. And so the Bhagavad Gita is celebrated in India as Gita Jayanti. Gita Jayanti is the day that Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. And so, right after he spoke the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, then the battle begins. So Gita Jayanti is not only the speaking of Bhagavad Gita, but it's also the first day of the battle. And that usually takes place sometime in the middle or beginning of December. And so the battle began at that time in December. It lasted for 18 days. And then Grandfather Bhishma Dev, he expired within the next couple of weeks. I think it may have even been last week, but it's around this time of year that his passing is celebrated and honored in India. Well, in ancient times, the King Bharat existed thousands and thousands of years ago. Many, many thousands of years before the Kuru dynasty. Because India actually had many, many different kingdoms. And it extended not only into the confines of what we know as India today. Bharatvarsha, basically, it's from Iran down to Vietnam and Cambodia. That was the extent of Bharatvarsha.